So, I'm hearing echoes now. Whenever I say and preach this subject, I hear an echo. You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith by your works, and I will show you by my works my faith. Just take a look at that. There's a number of translations of this, and most of them don't get it clearly across. So open up Word Search, which is now joined to Logos software, but it's still the same Word Search. Logos is good. I just like Word Search better, and they're incorporating all the great resources of Word Search into the Logos software, so it's a very, very useful tool. James, looking at James 2:17. So let's take a look at James. That's in the New Testament, if you want to call it that. That's actually just the Greek Bible. James 2:17. Make it a little bigger. Even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead, being by itself. And there we go. Here's the echo of the objector, and I hear this all the time. And this is a great argument. Reduce the argument. Refute the argument before the guy brings it up. Now, hang on. Before you say anything, let me answer one thing that might be on your mind. And answer the objection, because otherwise you're going to go on a rabbit trail all over the Bible. So control your own time. If they don't want to listen, then move on. But someone may well say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without the works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. In other words, the two aren't connected. He's trying to tell you that. Let's see. The New King James Version. What does that say? But someone will say, you have faith, I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. They're saying the same thing. Young's literal. I always like to look at this. But say may someone, see, it's archaic English. Thou hast faith, and I have works. Shew me thy faith out of thy works, and I will shew thee out of my works my faith. In other words, you can't do that. I can't show you my works out of my faith, and you can't show me your faith out of your works. The two aren't connected. I don't think it goes any different. Some of you have faith, same thing. All the 7 versions. King James Version. Okay. Yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Shew me thy faith without thy works, and I will shew thee my faith by my works. And I have trouble with Elizabethan English because I wasn't born in Shakespeare's time. See, so maybe it behooves you to use 21st century American English. Yeah, it's saying the same thing. The two aren't connected is what it's trying to say. NIV tries to paraphrase. Maybe it'll help. Check them all sometimes. Someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I'll show you my faith by my deeds. In other words, it's all nonsense to him. This doesn't mean it is nonsense. You're answering the nonsensical objection. Remember that. And guess who's saying this? Is author James saying this? No, it's someone other than James who's the author. But someone will object to what he just wrote in the previous verse 17. So are we back there? Are we there again? So, summarizing this, the author, James, uses a well-known literary device, an imaginary objector, to prove a point. He knows it's going to come up. Might as well answer it now while you have the mic and the audience is listening. If they want, most of the time when people raise an objection, they're not putting listening ears on. They just want to cloud out and shout out what they don't agree with you, but they're not going to provide a logical frame of reference or point of view. Much less are they going to give you a chance to answer. So throw the answer in first before the question comes up. But someone will say the word but, which begins with verse 2:18, signifies an impending objection, which is corroborated by the beginning phrase of 2:18, but someone will say. So author James evidently assumed that some of his readers might take opposition to his words. So he used a very effective, well-known ancient technique of presenting an opposing argument from an imaginary objector who will become real in a matter of moments, usually, when you present your case, so that he could emphasize his point by refuting an opposing point of view that might occur in the reader's mind most likely will in many. This device is a point-counterpoint device, which consists of the author announcing an imaginary objector, such as, but someone will say, and then conveying an objection that might be on someone's mind. This is followed by a pointed retort by the author, such as, you foolish man, followed by a stern rebuttal. Remember this, because 99% of people who read these passages, these words in James chapter 2, misinterpret it. And they think it's point-counterpoint. The point that Mr. Someone says goes on down until James says, you foolish fellow. See, here it goes. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I'll show you my faith by my deeds. You believe there is one God. This still the objector talking, not James. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. The objector is saying these things, not James. Guess what? Verse 20, James rebuts, you foolish person. Do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? See? So, first of all, you believe there's one God. Good. Even the demons believe. Well, if the demons believe there's one God, that doesn't make them good or bad. They're still demons. They're still demonic. And they shudder. But believing in one God is not the salvation message anyway. And they certainly know there's one God because they're experiencing Him directly. So what point is this verse 19 for James to make? Because James isn't saying the gospel is believing there is one God. James is saying you believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, that He died for your sins. James chapter 1. All right, let's go back. Have I answered that objection in advance? See what I just did. Someone might say, the demons believe, and they shudder. Well, James didn't say that, so we've resolved that point before it's brought up. Now keep listening. So the word but begins signifying an impending objection. James, author, evidently assumed that some of his readers might take opposition to his words. Okay, now let's see what Hodges says on this. But James does not expect that his words will go unchallenged among his readers. Even in Christians, the impulse to excuse or cover our failures is strong. So James anticipates his readers' excuse by introducing the words of an imaginary objector. Such alleged objectors were common stock in trade for writers on morals in James's day. They use this a lot. Today, everybody just goes around cherry-picking and scrambling like rabbit trails, and nobody actually talks to each other. They talk at each other and doesn't give the other person a chance to respond in a decent, logical, respectful conversation. It's, I'm going to talk, you shut up and listen. The inspired author here employs this well-known literary foil for that. This entirety of verses 18 and 19 belong to whom? The imaginary objector. Someone will say, this hypothetical speaker. In verses 18 and 19, the specific literary format James uses was familiar from the Greek diatribe, which was a learned and argumentative form of discourse. So it was recognized, and a lot of people were, in those days, more respectful. Words such as James's, but someone will say, in verse 18, are used to introduce the objection, and when the objection has been stated, which takes 2 verses, a sharp rejoinder is begun with words like James's, but do you want to know, O foolish man? That's when James started talking, verse 20, not in 19. As David's commentary, page 126, notes, the address, O foolish person, is part of the strong, direct style of the diatribe. Precisely the format we are discussing in James occurs also in Paul, at Romans 9:19-20. Let's just take a look, see if Paul uses that as well. So I'm not pulling rabbits out of a hat. Romans 9:19-20. What does Paul have to say? Romans 9:19 and 20. One of you will say to me, see, Paul concludes, therefore God has mercy on whom He wants to have mercy, and He hardens whom He wants to harden. It's talking about election and God's sovereignty. And then so verse 19, one of you will say to me. That's the imaginary objector. I know one of you is listening and is going to object. Then why does God still blame us? For who is able to resist his will? So Paul, under the inspiration of God, is stating what an objection will be, and let's answer it ahead of time before it even occurs. Cut it off at the pass. And Paul's answer is, but who are you? A human being to talk back to God. It's a sharp rejoinder. Shall what is formed say to the one who formed it, why did you make me like this? See? And he keeps on going with his sharp rejoinder. That's how it's done. That was done in the 1st century, and it was done before that in all the other languages. It's a well-known device to clarify a point before it clouds the issues. So the notion is entirely ridiculous. The view of many writers that James's reply is to begin at verse 18b ignores the manifest structural signals of James' text, and these writers have failed to produce any comparable text in the relevant literature. Okay, so the objection, again, is, let's take a look at it again. Get it through your head, because you're going to have to memorize this when it's brought up in conversation. Have your answer ready. That's the issue. Be ready with an answer. 2:17. 18. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You believe, he keeps on going, you believe that there is one God. James doesn't say that. Good, even the demons believe that, and shudder. That's the imaginary objector. Going ridiculous, goes from the foolish to the ridiculous. Then James says, you foolish person. Okay, so we have this down. So, Mr. Someone begins his objection. Let's examine it, dissect it. Mr. Someone begins his objection by his opening words. Now, you've got the objector before he said anything. You've imagined his objection, but get it as close as you can to someone who will say these things. You have faith, I have deeds. This cannot be construed as a complete statement of objection, as some maintain. Mr. Someone begins his objection by his opening words contained in verse 18a, you have faith and I have deeds. This short sentence cannot be construed as a complete statement of objection, as some maintain, after which follows verse 18b, show me your faith by your works, and I will show you by my works my faith. Verse 18a does not contain sufficient information to provide an objection to the idea that James has been presenting, namely an objection to faith and works being connected. James isn't saying that. He's saying they are connected. All through chapter 1, they're connected relative to temporal blessings, the length of years that you'll live, and eternal rewards. Verse 18a needs more information, another adjoining statement, to make a completed point of objection. Hence, 18b must be part of Mr. Someone's statement and not a rebuttal by author James. Recall that the punctuation that appears in English translations are English translations that are edited, including punctuation marks, is not part of the original manuscript text, which had little or no punctuation. It is an interpretation that may or may not be accurate. The context must decide the punctuation. The interpretation is the punctuation interpretation. So, point C, show me your faith by your works, in lieu of show me your faith without your works, best fits the context. Sometimes these conjunctions can go one way or the other, and what determines which conjunction is to be used and translated into English? The context. Show me your faith by your works, and I will show you by my works my faith. See, so here it is in the Greek. Show me the faith yours. Show me your faith. Ek, from or out of. From the works, from your works, out of your works. Show me your faith by or out of your works. Same meaning. And I will show you from ek, from the works my. I will show you from my works my faith. So he's saying, well, you show me this, and I'll show you that. You can't do it, and neither can I. I do one thing, you do the other. Neither one is going to work. Okay, so most manuscripts have ek in verse 2:18b, yet most translations take the minority manuscript text of chorus, which is another manuscript deviance, without, meaning without, in lieu of ek, by, or with. For some